Hello and welcome to part two of Tangled the Analysis. We spoke earlier about how Goffel's character represents the establishment, the elite, Big Brother, etc. This link between the elites, represented as Goffel, and everlasting life is, of course, transhumanism. Transhumanism, for those that are unaware, is the merging of human consciousness and mechanical engineering to prolong human life by containing your consciousness within a robotic vessel in an attempt to live forever in the material world. The fire is the light, and just like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, the truth has always been with her and right in front of her. But it takes the journey, the destruction of old taught lessons to make her aware of the truth, or rather, her truth. It takes the journey exciting her, or in other words, lighting her up, for her to be able to see the truth via the light. We come back to this motif nearly every episode of the necessity of directly experiencing truth to create gnosis. As she looks up to the sky, to the heavens, to the realm of possibilities, she's opened the door of the tower for herself to see the lanterns. She perhaps, not consciously, understands internally that yearning desire for something other than the life that she has been given. She desires to explore beyond the cave walls and, in that, find the light, find the truth she so clearly seeks. We also see Gothel sleeping beside a mirror, and perhaps subtly emphasizing her narcissism as she is obsessed with her own image. Again, apologies about the images. I've had to screenshot the film and it's not come out the best. So we have the resemblance between the mirror of Irised and Harry Potter, where the mirror shows you the deepest desires of your heart. It's also gold around the borders, like the borders of the gold around her clothing. Yet again, a continuation of the desires that are closest to her, and most likely sits with her in her dreams also. And we, of course, dream when we're asleep, and this is another reason for the golden bordered mirror being in her room. She sees herself as royalty, as the most important, the highest, and this is why the gold is always on the outside. It is the projection. We have the tower that she's been trapped in, a man made phallic masculine symbol. And surrounding it, we have the obvious signs of the feminine natural waterfall, a river, trees, a mountain, and we call this nature, Mother Earth. Mother Earth. Maybe this speaks to Rapunzel's unconscious desire for the masculine in the form of Flynn, who later enters by the tower. So the masculine element in her, so the masculine element of her surroundings, as she hasn't knowingly experienced that side of herself as it's being hidden away from her. Hidden in plain sight, as she's never saw the tower she's in from the outside, and also hasn't had the opportunity to explore any masculine elements within her character, bravery, courage, for example. She's stuck inside, never having to express any physical force either, any assertiveness, bravery, due to Gothel keeping her stuck inside and doing everything for her. And it's like the man child who has every whim taken care of them by their mothers, never having to express any true signs of the divine masculinity because everything is done for them. And so, in turn, they rely on their mothers for everything. The only difference being that Rapunzel is forced to have this done, as she cannot express any true sign of individuality or confront any danger voluntarily, at least for the moment. Because the limitations are also not just in her the physicality of the tower, but also in her mind, and so perhaps that she doesn't feel the need yet to invoke that masculine um, element in order to escape. And you probably noticed that I've drew a few colored lines And even the and this is to express, sorry, that even the camera angle, the natural parts of the scenery slope downwards, and notice the trees bend forwards, creating an inverted triangle, as I've highlighted in the green there. The mountain sloping downwards with the orange triangle just there, uh, creating the inverted triangle, which is the universal symbol for female. This is, of course, opposed to the man-made phallus-shaped tower, which I have highlighted in red. And as we've discussed many times, the triangle is the upwards triangle, sorry, is the masculine symbol of the masculine. Here we see that the key to the door lies on the pillar to her left, the left pillar being the masculine side, as we again discussed in Wizard of Oz, and we can see on the top right, the pillar in the oh sorry, the pillar in the middle is represented as the window, and she looks outside of it. It is the pillar of wisdom, the all-seeing eye, perhaps. We also have Jacob's ladder, the ladder of being, of course, an object in which you can ascend, and Jacob's ladder specifically, as you've discussed in the representation, of the 33 vertebrae of the spine and its connection with the rising of the Kundalini energy in order to ascend to higher consciousness. The pillar on the left is the masculine pillar, as we said, and we can also see depicted by the symbol of the sun on the S pillar on the left. The moon is feminine, the sun is masculine, the masculine is courage, will, taking action, and this is exactly what she must do. The key to her freedom, her ascension, lies on the left masculine pillar, where the key is. It is when she takes action and goes outside where she begins the necessary journey to freedom. Gothel then shouts to Rapunzel, saying, Rapunzel, let down your hair, i.e., allow me to use you to elevate myself from a low down position to a higher position in which I could not do without you, i.e., allow me to use your golden hair to climb to seem visibly younger, allow me to use you to get near to your level by dragging you down. We may also view Rapunzel's hair itself as Jacob's ladder. After all, where is the hair located? From the bottom of her spine to the top of her head. And what is the braid also reminiscent of when looked sideways? The infinity symbol. Why the infinity symbol? Her hair allows for immortality. And we can, of course, correlate this also the symbol, sorry, to the DNA double helix, the rising snake of the Kundalini, as spoke earlier, and think of how a snake slithers left to right, creating the symbol of infinity, and her hair is the elixir of life. Now, this symbol on the left is the symbol for the kingdom of Corona, and one theory that is that this is a sort of form of subconscious programming, and we were given a film in which we have someone who's isolated away by an authority figure to protect them from coming into contact with corona. And of course, we can extrapolate this out to the forced isolation imposed by the government. And what is Gothel? Gothel is the representation of the government to protect us, in quotations, from COVID-19. The word corona is also the outer layer of the sun's atmosphere, and so this is why the symbol for the sun, what the symbol for the kingdom is an image of the sun. And in the last slide, the symbol is connected with the masculine, the side that Rapunzel needs to attain freedom, and the color of the banner is purple. So the crown chakra, which is where at the top of the head, where Rapunzel's hair is. And Rapunzel also, of course, wears a purple dress and is surrounded by purple in her room. When Gothel notices her looks are declining, she asks Rapunzel to sing in order to make her young again. And yet again, we have the descendant allegory and the fact that she must use Rapunzel's gold, aka Jacob's ladder, her hair, in order to ascend, and she gaslights Rapunzel and puts her down using many passive aggressive techniques, sorry, by telling her how much more beautiful she is in comparison with Rapunzel, and this lowers Rapunzel's self-worth, allowing her to stay above her, making her feel more powerful. And I won't go into detail, but this technique is basic trauma conditioning and trauma based mind control, and repeatedly telling Rapunzel she is mumbling when she isn't, a form of gaslighting. One method saying she's being overly sensitive, irrational, and always take things so serious when innocent old you was just joking. And of course, this is all covert manipulation. When Gothel makes a request, she then uses manipulation by saying, I love you straight after, making Rapunzel correlate being loved with following the wishes of her mother. Since Gothel is representative of authority in the government, it's no coincidence that this is exactly what the government does. As children, most of us learn the idea that good parents protect us, and this is why we look left and right before crossing the road, why we were taught to hold our parents' hand, why you don't touch the hot pan, etc. We learn from our parents that keeping us safe is how they showed that they love us. And so this is what the government does, or at least what it teaches us that they do. They also make this work more effectively by using the Hegelian dialectic, or more commonly known as problem, reaction, solution. They create a non-existent problem in order to have people react to the threat in which they supply the solution for that non-existent problem. The solution is something that they wanted in the first place, but they wouldn't be approved of and wouldn't have been able to create it randomly out of the blue. Um, for example, invading the Middle East randomly, uproar. Now invading the Middle East because of Muslim extremists killing innocent civilians. Invade it because of weapons of mass destruction that could destroy the world. Bingo, government, we'll take that care. We'll take care of you. We'll protect you. Then we not only allow them to, but we demand it. And they've done this all the time, and they do this all the time. Back to the 60s, we have an epidemic of serial killers suddenly sprouting out of the woodwork. The Cold War, Cuban Missile Crisis, and well, why perhaps? Well, because you couldn't have masses of people desiring and preaching change and peace and trying to change the system who take mind enhancing psychedelic drugs and want to stop war. So you have to feed them all a little bit of fear. And the message that many ordinary people view and receive is that this is the way that the government care about us, and nothing makes people go into fight or flight like the threat of war and death. And so the government offers to get their hands dirty to protect you, their child, the innocent. Because Gothel has placed Rapunzel within what is essentially Plato's cave, she can only control what happens within the walls and not outside of them. As a result, she lies to Rapunzel about what she can't control, which is what's out there. The lanterns, which are the expressions of other people's desire for illumination around the disappearance of the lost princess. She tells Rapunzel that the lanterns are stars. In two instances, we are shown how evil cannot touch or take the light slash sun from someone. The first being the cutting of the hair, when we see that she cannot cut the hair and take the light and the powers. And the second being the stars in the sky. She cannot control what happens outside the cave, and just like the fake wizard in the Wizard of Oz, he too can only control specific things within his realm of control. A curtain. What do we put on windows to block out the light? Curtains. Plato's cave and Rapunzel's tower are also symbolic of the material world. When we stay in the material world, we become trapped. Goffer then closes the windows, where we can see the key to freedom being beyond the tower. It's outside, it is the truth outside the cave walls. She attempts to hide the light, not to control it. She closes her off from the truth itself. She tries to dissuade her from looking. Gothel then, as Rapunzel's request to leave the castle, begins to sing about how Rapunzel is weak and how much safer she is inside the tower due to all the danger out there. Again, we're using fear to keep her trapped, like deer in headlights, afraid to move, afraid to explore the physical boundaries, but the mental ones also. And this is to keep analogous with the uh, previous slide about what the government does with mental manipulation. This is what the news do. Keep you in a state of perpetual fear, showcasing you something to worry about, the economy, ice caps, brink of World War III, etc. Also, they can use and sell you things and blah blah blah. Again, we see the noticeable symbology implanted within the film as the Stabbington brothers and Flynn make their way to escape by stealing the crown, and they are trapped within this crevice, which is obviously a symbol of the masculine, as discussed earlier. As Flynn ditches the brothers and attempts to escape, we are introduced to the horse Maximus. Now, Maximus is the lover of truth. He is white, representing purity, innocence, and power, exactly like the unicorn, which is also white. And these traits are readily apparent when viewing the film. And although this happens on in the film, we see his love for apples throughout the film, which speaks to me about his love for knowledge, which one could argue itself is truth, and that he perhaps has eaten directly from the teat of truth in the form of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is uh, metaphorically and symbolically entirely plausible due to the fact that the story takes place within a forest and the forest is a mass of trees. And maybe this is why a subtle hint why he is enamored by apples, and it's because he's pure, he knows the difference and he's tasted the innate difference between right and wrong via this tree of knowledge of good and evil. And it might be similar to the Matrix also, why they choose the red pill, the red pods, due to the connection to the red apples in the Garden of Eden, and how once you've woken up, you can't go back, as you will be forever aware of the knowledge of truth, right and wrong, etc. We see the opposite of this in Wizard of Oz, where we see the unworthiness of Dorothy and the Scarecrow to pick from the tree. To Maximus, stealing a crown is a no-no. The crown is something that you must be worthy to wear and must have the right to wear. To Maximus, thievery is a big no-no, and in natural law, it's the only law, whether that be theft of belongings, physical boundaries, the right to life, etc., etc. One must also realize that a crown, in a very least a symbolic spiritual metaphor of the crown chakra perhaps, is something that must be earned. Unlike the golden crown placed atop a nepotismally chosen king, the crown of illumination is something that we must earn by climbing the ladder, perhaps Jacob's ladder, the spinal column, and so on. I'm going to pause it here. Thanks so much for watching, and we shall continue this soon.